Welcome to our video bulletin for Friday the 26th of June. As ever, it's been a very busy week, especially with the announcement made on Tuesday by the Prime Minister that public worship can resume. The planning has started in earnest, although we're still waiting for the details from the government about what we can do. We know already the general shape of what we need to produce so that we can keep everyone safe. That work will continue, and obviously I'll update you in the next few days, but I very much encourage you to put the 5th of July in your diary as a time when our worship will resume at Liverpool Parish Church. We have, of course, continued to make our contribution to the city and the witness to the work of the city throughout these months, and that continues this weekend. On Saturday, we will be leading an online service for Armed Forces Day. Normally, we appreciate the work that servicemen and women do by a service in church, followed by a march and a parade through the city. Well, we'll be doing that online this year, and do look out on social media and our own parish church channels for that service, which will include the Lord Mayor and the Lord Lieutenant and representatives of the Army, the Navy and the Air Force. Over the next few weeks, as summer continues, we know that the challenges that our city faces will also grow, not just in the food poverty, which we've been so aware of in the last few months. Please do keep contributing to the food bank, and if you've got donations you'd like to make and can't bring them to church, then just get in touch with me and someone will come and collect them. But also in the challenges that businesses will face as they open up again and try and attract the usual sort of customers or guests that they've been used to having. We need to pray for them and support them as we get the city moving again. But we also need to remember those who are still at home, those who are fearful and anxious, and also remember that the Prime Minister's announcement of the 1 metre plus rule did not mean that that should take place as a norm. Well, every Friday we also meet a member of the congregation, and this week Father Fergus has been talking to John.
Hello, John. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Right, well, I was actually born in Anfield, about 5 minutes walk from the football ground. Standard terraced house, outside toilet, the whole bit. I went to the Liverpool Institute, not at the same time as Paul McCartney and George Harrison. They were a little bit older than me. I was asked to leave the interview at the Institute at 16. I won't go into the details of that. After various jobs, I ended up as a trading director for Littlewoods, the home shopping side, which is now, well, was shop direct and is now Very. The Very Group. Before I then ended up as a buying director of another internet company, and then retired at 63. I'd already become a magistrate, so I was a magistrate for 13 years, and it was in the magistrature, although I tend to call it the marriage bureau, that I met Leslie. She was a fellow magistrate. She was in with the in crowd, and I was on the periphery. But eventually, don't ask me how, we got together. She brought me along to St. Nick's, and that's about 8 years ago now. I'd actually, from the age of 15, I went to Richmond Baptist Church in Anfield. Amongst the different people who were there, I used to work with a guy who was the leader of our youth club, and his name was Frank Baines. And one of his sons was Nick Baines, who is now the Bishop of Leeds.
Indeed.
So I've got the dirt on him if you ever want it. And I was heavily involved with Richmond, with the various activities. I was youth club leader. I used to organise services. In the 60s and early 70s, I was what's called a coffee bar evangelist. So I used to chat after various Christian bands had played, because we were very into different pop groups with a Christian bent back in the 60s, because it was Merseyside. I then was involved in a Christian drama group called Roundabout. We toured all over the north doing various multimedia events and doing full plays. We had a couple of bands attached to us. One of them was a band called originally Trinity Folk, and then called Parchment. And they actually had a top 30 hit with Light Up the Fire. which was a song that was used for the Festival of Light back when in the, that was the late 70s. But in fact, that song was written for one of our plays. For various reasons, all sorts of things happened. Life intruded in a bad way. I got very involved in the job that I was doing, the career I was involved in, which involved a lot of travel. I ended up getting divorced, and I ended up basically falling away from the church and stopping attending the church. And really, it was Leslie that brought me back into church activities, bringing me along to St. Nick's.
Very good. Well, we're very glad that she did. And very briefly, John, tell us how you're coping in lockdown. How's it going for you?
Well, Leslie's working full time still. She's in the other room in her various Zoom meetings with up to 10 people. One day she was working from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So what I do is I provide coffee, tea, lunch. I do the shopping. I am over 70 but I'm not self-isolating. I'm the one that ends up in the supermarket. And generally just looking after her, keeping in touch with friends, keeping in touch with my daughters, of which I have 4, keeping in touch with my grandchildren, and going for walks by the side of the Mersey, because we fortunately live only 2 minutes walk from the promenade. Although it's a little bit full at the moment. I think we haven't really been self-isolating in this part of Liverpool for several weeks, is the easiest way of putting it.
I see. Well, hopefully we'll see you back at church again soon.
Looking forward to it. Can I just say that the one thing I love about the Church of England, as opposed to the Baptist church I used to attend, is I actually like the formulaic essence of it, because it gives a structure in which I can relax, become absorbed, and meditate, think. It's really good, and I thoroughly enjoy the services.
Thank you, John. It's lovely to speak to you.
Thank you, folks.
Well, this weekend will be the last of our Sunday virtual services, so please do join us from 10 o'clock on our YouTube channel. Father Bill will be celebrating, Father Fergus will be preaching, and then the following Sunday, as we return to church, we will be live streaming a service, so we know that those of you who can't be with us in person will be able to share in the worship. Sunday School will be meeting this week as normal by Zoom, but again we anticipate that there'll be a return to meeting together, albeit in a safe and distanced way, probably in the gardens, so perhaps you could also add prayers for sunshine for July the 5th. I hope you have a very good weekend, and I hope you join us at 10 o'clock on Sunday.